I told her that was completely fine, and after some more talking I made my way to Mom and Dad's to see Carrie. As soon as I walked in, Mom asked me what I was doing there, and I told her I needed to speak to Carrie. Mom looked around and in a hushed robe told me it's best I leave, because the last 3 days after things were resolved Carrie has been perfectly happy and no one in this family needs any more drama. I told Mom I was sorry, but things in fact were not resolved. They were far from resolved. That's when Carrie walked into the kitchen and asked what I was doing there. Mom tried to brush it off and say nothing. Amy was just coming to get something but she's on her way out now. But I told her no, actually that's a lie. I'm here to talk to you about what happened the other day alone. Carrie didn't seem pleased and Mom's face was as red as a tomato, but Carrie and I proceeded to go into her bedroom to talk. I firstly told her how completely unacceptable it was for her to raise her voice and scream at a pregnant woman because of how harmful it was for the baby. Immediately Carrie scoffed and said no it isn't. Don't make up lies to make me feel guilty. I told her what lies. She said the baby isn't going to be affected just because I raise my voice. It doesn't even know what's going on, you're just making stuff up. What the? This girl, I swear. I decided it's no use arguing with stupid, so I told her pregnant or not, this was Laura's wedding, not hers, and all of the name calling she did and harsh criticism of the decorations was completely childish and unacceptable. I then brought up the fact how her throwing that tantrum to get her way was the most childish thing I've ever seen in my life, and that if things were reversed and I made Laura take away Carrie's maid of honor job, Carrie, would have lost her mind. So how was it in any ways alright for her to do it to me? In response to that she told me I'm acting so pathetic and that I reek of jealousy. She then said there's no real problem here, you're just jealous. Laura decided she wanted me after all. I told her this was false. She wanted me, otherwise she wouldn't have asked, but agreed to make Carrie Mo to stop the fighting. Carrie then very smugly said there was nothing I could do about it now, so I'd better get over it. That's when I told her she was no longer welcome to the sleepover we had planned, and that Laura also did not want her to come. Until Carrie decides to apologize to both me, Laura, and our parents for her outrageous behavior, she was no longer welcome in my fiancé's home. Suddenly Mom burst through the door, I'm assuming she was listening in, and went completely ape. She told me I had no right to ban Carrie from the sleepover and from my house, and that the only reason I was doing it was to get back at her. She told me I was stirring up unnecessary drama and that at least Carrie didn't mean to hurt feelings the other day, whereas right now, I'm doing it on purpose. This is when Carrie begins to cry and moan about how I'm always bullying her, and I'm not being fair. My mom then goes over to Carrie and starts rubbing her back and says, I know honey, she's being very rude to you right now, you didn't start anything. Gag. That's when I noticed stepdad standing at the door and I said to him, do you not see all this? Did she at least tell you she bought that pink 2K dress? Dad looked awkwardly between my mom, sister and me before saying, I think everyone is stressed out and no one means what they say. Sisters fight, and I know by the end of the wedding you'll all be the best of friends again. At this point I really had enough. I told everyone I was leaving, and Mom got up and said the discussion wasn't over. I told her actually it was over, and unless Carrie apologizes to me and Laura, I will not be speaking to her. On my way out I heard Carrie say there was nothing she needs to apologize about, but I kept walking. To say that I was hurt and angry is an understatement, and with how my head was pounding I just wanted some Advil and juice, so I went to the nearest drugstore. Now, this part might have been where I crossed over the line, I'm honestly not so sure, but in my last post I didn't mention, because I didn't find it relevant, that Carrie has a boyfriend she's been going out with for approximately 6 months. His name is Noah, he's 27, he's hardcore Christian and overall a really cool guy. I've met him at the city's university about 2 years ago, and we had a lot of the same courses together and became pals. He and Carrie have quite a bit in common, they both love animals. He fosters animals all the time and Carrie at that point was debating on studying to be a vet, so at the beginning of January Noah moved back to our part of the city where he got a job as a pharmacist, and that's when he and Carrie started going out. Which we were all cool with because he really is a great person. Because of his Christian values he's very excited to get married and have kids ASAP. He's said multiple times he hopes to be engaged by the end of this year. Carrie is also his first relationship, which might be another reason why he's so anxious for the commitment. Anyways, I got some Advil and juice and was surprised to see Noah, because I didn't know he worked at this particular pharmacy, so he waved me over and saw the Advil and asked if I was sick. I told him no, just a headache from the wedding stress. He said oh, Carrie never mentioned any wedding stress, she said things were going terrific. This surprised me, but mostly pissed me off, so I asked him if that means she never told him about the situation a few days before. He had no clue. So I made it brief and I told him the highlights of her name callings, screaming, and choosing her own dress against my sister's wishes and how now she's the new maid of honor. This surprised Noah and he said stuff like, are you sure? I know Carrie, she always hates yelling. She didn't actually make that big of a scene, did she? I told him yes, it was all very, unfortunately, true. Then I told him that if she talks to him, to please recommend her some sort of therapist, he knows quite a few, and I told him perhaps she might even need medicine for bipolar disorder for all I know. I told him I am now out of her life unless she apologized, and if I were him I would think very carefully before making a commitment to her anytime soon. He stood there and didn't respond, so I left, and when I went home Alan and my fiancé were playing video games and they asked what happened, so I told them everything. Alan and fiancé think I was in the right for everything including warning Noah. Later on that evening, however, I got countless texts from Carrie and my mother who were furious that I mentioned anything to Noah just to start shit on purpose. I did not respond to any of the messages and instead I blocked both of their numbers for the time being. As for Noah, Carrie has him wrapped around her little finger completely, so I honestly don't see him doing anything drastic. He sees how she is when she's pouty, and how she is when she's spoiled, but I think all of that goes over his head completely. But still, I felt I needed to say something. I wish I could say I feel better and like a new woman, but I don't. I feel hurt and betrayed. It feels like my throat or my chest are clogged and I honestly don't know if it'll ever clear. At the end of the day, Laura called me and said she really wants me as her maid of honor, but in order to keep the peace she is choosing Carrie. For now I will swallow my pride and my pain and support my favorite sister in anything she decides, and I'm going to love my new niece/nephew to bits. Hey y'all, many of you have been messaging me for an update. I'm so sorry it's been a while. I never log into this account, so if you haven't seen the previous posts I'll link them below. First post was here on the group, second was on my profile because it got removed from here. Laura had the wedding. It was before the second lockdown and out on our family's farm with about maybe 50 people that showed. Carrie wore the dress she chose because Laura caved and then wore the tiara thing she picked out. Days before the wedding, Carrie made Facebook posts directed at me, just statuses saying stuff like can't believe my own family would be so toxic and bully me, stuff like that. So eventually I blocked her. Honestly, nothing too out there happened during the wedding. Carrie got drunk and tried to sing and dance and make the attention fall on her, of course, but nothing overly out there. Gave me the cold shoulder big time, and if I would enter the room she would announce that she can't be around negative energy then leave, dragging her boyfriend with her. Her boyfriend proposed to her, and texted me asking if I would please try to make things up with her and help plan the wedding. I told him I was sorry, but I still wanted to be his friend. I just can't have her in my life. He told me he was sorry and he hopes we one day reconcile. Haven't spoken to Carrie in months, but Laura is doing good and they still keep in touch. Mom and my stepdad have been silent and I've just been keeping my distance as well. I don't have any of them on Facebook anymore, but Laura keeps me in the loop. Anyways, not much else has happened. Not a very exciting update, but thanks everyone for the support. Edit. On those of you saying I shouldn't have told Noah I think Carrie is bipolar, you're probably right. I want to say I never meant it in a malicious way. My good friend is bipolar, and recently started taking medication. I began noticing similar outbursts and traits between the two of them, and it was my friend who suggested Carrie might be. I brought it up to Noah because I wondered, since he's in the medical field, if he would have any knowledge or be able to convince her to see someone. I in no way judge anyone who is bipolar. Also, I in no way claim that I'm the victim or 100% innocent in this. Of course, I've had my own arguments with Carrie beforehand and during this, so I know she's not just the bad guy here. I usually try to stay out of any outburst her or my mom has had in the past.